Great. Hello. I'm going to give people a few minutes to hop on here. Today I'm traveling across country with my daughter to Oregon. We're on 94 down by Chicago, so if any of you are out there right now in this area, just hop on and say, hey. If you're along the route of 80 all the way to Oregon, just hop on today and let me know where you're at. We want to ask you to go ahead and give us some smiley faces and thumbs up and share the live Dr. Sizzle call today on your own Facebook page. We're going to be having some very interesting health information. And we welcome you to the Tuesday Sizzle's Doctor Clinic call with Dr. Kurt Fisnick and myself. I'm Andrea from Michigan. We have this call every Tuesday at noon at Eastern time. So I'm just going to let Doc take it away. He kind of knows what he wants to talk about, or he wants to say hi for sure, and then I'll come back and kind of start the conversation.
Well, Andrea, welcome. Here you are.
Hi.
You're driving down the road and you're still doing the conference call. You know, think of all the people out there who, you know, they got to travel. So what do? They cancel their whole day. Here you are, you're traveling with your daughter. You're driving from Michigan all the way out to Oregon.
Yeah.
So do you say Oregon or do you say Oregon?
Yes.
What do you say,
She
Oregon or
I
Oregon?
say Oregon. She says Oregon.
Oh, okay.
She's lived out there before, so she knows how to say it.
Ask her which one it really is.
She said Oregon.
Oh, that's what it really is? Oregon?
That's what she says.
Okay. Well, there you go. You know, she probably says potato, you know.
Could be.
Well, welcome to the call. You know, welcome everybody that's watching us on Facebook now and sharing this live feed that we're doing. Today we're really talking about anti-aging medicine. It's a topic I really like talking about. I really like sharing information about it and telling people little things that they can do. You know, yesterday, did you read my tip that you can actually put black pepper on your food and it helps with aging?
Yes, I read that yesterday. That was good information.
Black pepper. How simple is that?
The cool part is I really like black pepper.
Oh, I love it. I put it on everything. I make some sausage in the morning just by putting tons of black pepper into a burger, and you can make it taste like sausage.
Cool. I didn't know that. You teach me things every week.
Yeah, and you know, and then you could take and you can put a little bit of baking soda in your coffee, and you can make it so your coffee is less acidic. I
think the coffee I use isn't very acidic anyway.
Yeah, the Sizzle coffee is a little bit less acidic because it's because of the type of coffee you use, the Panama Geisha Boquete coffee. But what they show is, like, for people like me, where I drink a lot of coffee and I drink it on an empty stomach, you do need some stomach acid in order to digest your food.
Right. We've talked about that before.
Right, and if you don't have stomach acid, you can't digest certain minerals and things like that. And so when I'm drinking coffee all the time, all day long, it can create some problems.
Right.
So I try and do that.
You know, this whole field of anti-aging, I didn't understand that there was a whole medical field of anti-aging out there.
Yeah.
You know, I had learned about resveratrol about 4 years ago, and if you know, resveratrol is what Dr. David Sinclair discovered from certain red grape skins, and it's a substance that causes some things in the body that create reverse aging. But that was all I knew about. So, you know, when I was introduced to this other information, you know, stemming from 10 to 20 years of research in that anti-aging field, it was all new to me, but I was pretty excited about it.
Yeah. But, you know, you're saying the same thing that a lot of people say. They say, well, they were introduced to it, you know, not that long ago, last 10, 15, maybe 20 years. Like me, I've been kind of looking at it. I've been a student of it for the last 20, 25 years. But so I like to do a little research before I do this call. Did you know that way back in 1961, well, I wasn't even born. I wasn't even a thought yet then in 1961. You were just a little tiny kid. And Dr. Hayflick in 1961, he actually coined the term senescent, right? And we've heard the term senescent. Yeah, you know what that is, right?
Is it the death of cells?
Yeah, it's basically when the cells, they've died, they've gone into hibernation, they've gone into sleep. So he came up with that term. And guess what all the other researchers said?
They probably said he didn't know what he was talking about.
They called him an idiot.
Yeah, I think I just read an article about that.
Yeah, I was just reading about that this morning. So in 1961, they said he was an idiot for bringing it up. They were making a fool of him. They said, maybe you know your stuff about everything else, but you don't know anything about that. Right? Are you there? You're kind of fading out on me. You sound like a robot. Let's shut your video off and
stop here.
let me shut your video off and then maybe that'll give us a little bit better feed. How about now?
Can you hear me good now?
Oh, plain as day. Yeah, sometimes on the phone what happens is that it's taking up too much bandwidth, and so we have to shut that off. So in July of 2018, the world kind of woke up to a new look at anti-aging.
It was July of 2017.
July of 2018, July 9th, 2018, the world woke up to a new reality, and with saying that age could possibly be reversed. Things that people might have thought, well, oh yeah, that's one of those sciences that's really not going to go far, things like that. But what happened in 2018 in July?
I don't know. I know what happened in July of 2017.
So July of 2018, Mayo Clinic reported that we might be able to reverse age-related disease.
I'd already known that for like a year at that point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, but here's the deal is that you and I can talk about it all we want. And the world just kind of goes, that's just those crazy people, right?
Right.
But all of a sudden you have the Mayo Clinic reporting it. And so what they said was in July of 2018, they said that using substances, they could help mice regain youthful health, and they could actually help them so they could live 36% longer. I'm just looking at some notes that I jotted down. And it was a meticulous study. They took young mice and they put senescent cells into the mice. They took old mice and they took the senescent cells out. And so they're using old and young mice. They're kind of varying the study in different ways. And what they found was, the end result was that they found that if you could get rid of senescent cells, you could help with healthy aging. So you go back to Dr. Hayflick in 1961, right? 57 years ago.
How about that?
Isn't that crazy? And so, here's some other, I just took notes. I was jumping between websites and different things like that. And, one of the things that I started talking about a year ago was maybe we don't need to look at lifespan so much. Maybe we need to start looking at health span, right? And the difference.
I think that's what everyone's interested in.
Yeah. And the
that
difference
seems to be what other people, we keep talking over each other, sorry.
That's all right. Keep going.
Well, it's what people say. Like, if you ask them, do you want to live longer? They're like, oh, look, good Lord, no, I don't want to live longer, because look how people live when they get that old.
That's exactly it. I remember my son when he was, it was probably 10 years ago. He's 26 now. He's in medical school, fourth year medical student. And he said to me, he said, Dad, he said, why do you want to live so old? Right. He said, all you're going to do is get old age diseases. And
not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. And you look at one of the directors at the National Institutes of Aging. He said the same thing. He said people should want to die by the time they're 75.
I used to want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, people. He said people should want to die after that age, because really after that age, they're non-useful. They're just a burden to society. And I thought, here's a guy who he helps to form opinions of the government, things like that. And he's saying that we should all want to die by the time we're 75, 76 years old. And I thought, who put him in charge?
Right?
You know, who put him in charge? That was one of my thoughts. But so when we look at senescent cells, normally what happens is that as your body ages, it takes these old dying cells and it causes them to go through apoptosis. And when it goes through apoptosis, it gets rid of them.
Okay.
So what happens is that when these old dying cells don't get sloughed off, the body doesn't get rid of them through self-elimination, they start to accumulate. And when they start to accumulate, what they find is that they injure healthy cells, right? A lot like the whole theory of free radicals, kind of in that way. Think of it the same way.
Right.
And it blocks the cells from having regeneration. It blocks organs from regenerating, right? And so when we think about it, our body is constantly breaking down, building up, breaking down, building up, so that you're constantly, you have a repair process that eventually you replace all your organs over a period of time.
Right.
Isn't that interesting? So your body is constantly repairing and replacing, repairing and replacing. And so if you have these senescent cells that accumulate, it blocks that from happening. And all of a sudden you have just a bunch of old dying cells. And the other thing about senescent cells is that they promote inflammation, right? And you and I have talked about inflammation a lot on this call.
It's one of the major contributors to disease.
One of the major contributors to disease. It really is. And it's one of the primary symptom that we see. It's one of the things that we see with every chronic disease. Inflammation is one of the components of it.
Right.
So what they found is that if you can get rid of the senescent cells, you can improve the fraility, right? People aren't as frail anymore. They found that they enhance the color of hair. Isn't that one of the things that we're seeing with using the age pill?
Oh yeah, we have several reports of people who've had gray hair or white hair for years, and it's turning back to their original color.
Yeah, right. I'm seeing it with my dog. How about cardiovascular function? Are we hearing anybody talking about improved cardiovascular function?
Yeah, I've seen some evidence of that out there, people sharing testimonies.
People are sharing testimonials on it, right? Can we say that medically it's doing that they're having this or that happen and it gets rid of medical condition? Absolutely not. But what we can say is that they have improved function. They're noticing that they're having less symptoms.
Right.
They're finding that when you help with the senescent cells, you help with reducing urinary incontinence, which seems to be an issue with people as they get older, right? I mean, think about it. We see this whole industry of these Depends, these adult underwear and so that's an issue. We see that it decreases osteoporosis. It increases endurance. It makes you so that you can function better. You have improved liver and kidney function. I can show you my mom and dad. I can show you their medical studies from their doctors, and they have that increased liver and kidney function, and they're finding that they have improved health span. They're staying healthier for longer periods of time. Who wouldn't want that, Andrea?
Well, that's certainly what I'm going for.
right? Who wouldn't want that? I mean, what if you still die before you're 90, but you were healthy until the day before you died?
That'd be great.
Wouldn't that be the way to go? I always tell people, I went to school for engineering before I went into chiropractic, and I was talking graphs. So if you look at a graph, most people like this, they're healthy, and then all of a sudden they're not healthy, they're not healthy, they're not healthy, and then they kind of low level and they die. It takes them 20 years to die, and they're sick for 20 years. Sounds like you're in your cupboard. What are you digging out? Okay. We can just assume that you're on the road and you're making road noises. So I'm going to mute you up for a second. I can't stand all that road noise, Andrea. So just raise your hand when you're done having road noises there. So here's some other studies that I came across. The American Geriatric Society said that senolytics, which is the study of senescence, transforms geriatric medicine by enabling prevention and treatment of multiple diseases and functional deficits at the same time, instead of what we've been doing. We've been treating one disease at a time, right? And so that's important. So you're treating aging as the disease. That's what the American Geriatric Society is saying. And so they're saying that if you can reduce this senescent cell burden, you can decrease inflammation. And like Andrea and I were just talking about, and like we talked about in previous webinars, that if you can look at inflammation, you can reduce the disease burden. And what they found is that you can increase the function of the stem cells. You can increase the function of the stem cell. And so folks, if you like what you're hearing, give us the old thumbs up, and give us the, the smiley face and the heart, share this, tell us where you're from. I mean, it helps in getting this word out to other people. And that's really, really important. Well, looks like we lost Andrea. She's gone. But okay, I'll just continue here. But, so you start thinking about that. What's the benefit? What's the benefit? If you can stay healthier for longer periods of time, right? And so we want to get rid of these dead cells that are just kind of hanging around, these dead cells that are clogging up the system. And we want to, it disrupts the normal healthy function of your body. So if we can take and we can remove them and get your body back to a normal healthy function, it's going to be that much better. And so what happens is that it's just a powerful age-reversing idea, and that's what a lot of the science is talking about. And so maybe some of our erratic lifestyles is adding to this. So we need to start looking at that. We need to start looking at getting better sleep, restorative sleep. I was talking to a friend of mine last night who injured herself 7 months ago, and she's just having a really hard time healing up. And she just doesn't sleep. That was one of the questions I asked her. I asked her about different function, as far as like bowel movements, things like that. But one of the things that I talked about was, how's your sleep? And she said she doesn't get very good sleep. And so we really want to help people get better sleep. Time magazine reported that if we can help with the senescence, we can increase the lifespan by reducing or delaying in age-related disease. We can increase survival. This is a report that Time magazine did on the Mayo Clinic study. The Los Angeles Times, July 2018, again, that was this summer, just a few months ago, they said that aging is becoming to look more and more like a disease, a treatable disease. And so they said, looking at the senescent cells that drive the aging process, even with mice that started at the equivalent age of 75 to 90 years of old age, when you compare it to a human lifespan, it's like comparing a mouse's life to a 75-year-old to a 90-year-old person. You could increase the lifespan by 36%. 36%. And so I'm reading that. I'm going, holy cow. I mean, that really says it's never too late to start. And I've heard people tell me that in the past. Oh yeah, I'm too old. It's too late for me. Well, what this study is saying, what the Los Angeles Times is studying based off the Mayo Clinic study, is that it's never too late, right? Elderly people might be able to have increased function no matter where they start. This is what JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, says. They said that scientific discoveries and future of medicine, right? Scientific study and the future of medicine based on the study associated with senolytic cells. Intervention at eliminating senescent cells, which is what we call senolytics. It's been shown to improve the health and expand the life of mice, right? That's, I keep saying, is that what we want? We want older mice, right? Healthy older mice. That's not what I want. But mice are so closely related to humans that we can really study them and we can find out if it works for them, it works for us. So they're saying if it's safe for mice, then isn't it safe for humans as well? And so, hang on, I'm just bringing Andrea back onto the call. Hey, Andrea, you're back. You got through Chicago all right?
Well, we're not through it yet.
Okay. You know what they say about the south side of Chicago?
Yeah.
It's the baddest part of town.
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, it's the baddest part of town. That's where bad Leroy Brown lives.
Right.
But
Jim
you don't want to
Croce.
mess around with Jim.
Right. Jim Croce, 1973.
Don't mess around with Jim, right? But I was just talking about, you know, the Journal of the American Medical Association, and they're basically saying, look, if we can have all these mouse studies and it says we can have longer living, healthier mice, we can apply that to humans and we can have less chronic disease in humans. Isn't that cool? So there you are, you're kind of muting out again, but I'm just going to keep talking. And so the senolytic cells, they inflict damage and they cause pro-inflammatory signals. So they cause inflammation. So as you get an accumulation of all these dead, dying cells, it causes inflammation. And so what they're saying is, let's try and figure out how to get rid of these dead, dying cells. And what we're going to see is that we're going to see improved health. Then they're saying that these senolytic cells, they secrete a protein-destroying enzyme, right? And isn't that another thing that we talk about, Andrea, when we talk about the fact that we can take and we found that if your body isn't making muscle, you're going to have more dementia.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. We did talk about that.
We've talked about that quite a bit. Yeah, so we talk about neurogenesis. So Mayo Clinic, in their study, they said, if you've got one in just 7,000 cells that turns rogue like this and goes senolytic, 1 in 7,000, it's enough to start causing the deterioration of your body. 1 in 7,000. What do you think of those numbers? Yeah. What's worse is that these senolytic cells, they can bump into healthy cells. Again, much like the whole theory of free radicals and oxidation, they can bump into healthy cells and they can transfer the bad message into a healthy cell. And now all of a sudden a healthy cell is carrying the message of the senolytic cell.
Oh, so it's like an energy transfer.
Right? And they're carrying that. And so what diseases, when you hear me talking about senescence, what disease what diseases come to your mind?
Cancer.
Cancer, yep, that's one of them.
Diabetes.
Diabetes, you're 100% so far.
Help me out.
Okay,
Heart issues.
Cardiovascular disease, strokes, things like that, yep. Neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, Parkinson's, right?
Right.
Osteoporosis, osteoarthritis, obesity, loss of vision like macular degeneration, and emphysema. Those are some of the most common diseases caused by senescence, right? So wouldn't it make sense that if we can take and reduce the number of senescent cells in the body, we can have an effect on these diseases?
Of course, that makes sense.
Again, I'm not making a claim that any products can do this. I'm just saying the theory is that if we can reduce these senescent cells, wouldn't it make it so it can work if Mayo Clinic is saying these things?
Well, makes sense.
It really does make sense. And so chronic inflammation is a major contributor to all these major diseases. So as we age, we get more senescent cells, we have more organ failure, all these things. So we can take and reverse that. So Science Magazine in 2016, they said if you can remove the senescent cells, you're going to inhibit plaque growth in the arteries, right?
Wow.
And plaque growth is what we call atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, right? So this is Science Magazine 2016. Nature Magazine said that if we can remove the senescent cells, we can delay the onset and we can slow the aging process. Right? These are major science magazines. Here's what Forbes said. Forbes, do you think of Forbes as a magazine about science?
No, it's typically about investments and financial news, right?
It's a business magazine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why would they be reporting on something like substance?
There's probably some new research out there for people to invest in.
Right? And they're looking at it, they're going, okay, it's major business, people. It's major business. If you can help people reduce their age and you can get them so that they can live longer, it's a major business because people like Andrea and I, people like you, give us a thumbs up if you don't want to die tomorrow. Right? Give us the old smiley face. Andrea, what do you think? You want to die tomorrow or you want to live for another 30 years?
Do you see my thumb?
Thumbs up. Give us the smiley face, Andrea. Right? And that's the whole thing. So September 2018, Andrea, Forbes magazine said that these things can work. So they reported on different natural compounds found in food, vegetables, fruits. But they said that a lot of these substances on their own don't do it. But it's a combination of different things. They talked about a flavonoid called quercetin. They talked about another one called fisetin, which is another flavonoid. They talk about different vitamin E family type of vitamins called tocopherols. And they found that in cancer cells with the tocopherols, you could shut down the malignant potential of cancer cells.
That would be amazing.
Right? This is in Forbes magazine, folks. This isn't me saying these things. This is Forbes magazine. I jotted these things down. So where do we find this compound called fisetin? Not from Kurt Fisenik.
Funny.
Right? We find them in apples, strawberries, grapes. Right?
Okay.
But they said that if you're trying to get these compounds at a level that you're really going to see the reverse of these aging diseases, you'd have to eat 30 to 40 pounds twice a week.
Right. So you have to pull extracts from them.
Right? 30 to 40 pounds twice a week. I mean, who can do that?
Right.
And that would have to be 30 to 40 pounds of strawberries on 2 consecutive days in order to get your levels up to enough to make it where it would make a difference. So we just can't do it. So like Andrea says, that's why we have to turn to supplements. And people say to me all the time, oh yeah, I'm just going to eat right.
Right? I hear that too.
I look at them and I shake my head. I'm like, Forbes magazine says you can't do it. I mean, that's what they're saying. I don't know many people who can eat 30 pounds of strawberries on 2 consecutive days.
Right? I might try. It's my favorite food.
Is it really?
Yeah, I love strawberries.
There you go. One more reason that you're younger, and maybe that's why you got red hair.
Maybe.
But they talked about these different things. They even said fasting can have an effect. It causes the senolytic process to happen where we get rid of these old dead dying cells. NAD, boosting NAD levels, right? We've heard Tom Maurer talk a lot about that. We've heard, Mayo, not Mayo, but Harvard Medical talking about that. But again, everything goes back to when Dr. Hayflick talked about it way back in 1961, 57 years ago. And so maybe the whole thing is that when you're young, some of these processes are probably normal because it's a restorative process. You get rid of the old dead dying cells, you rebuild, you get rid of the old dead dying cells, and you rebuild, right? So you're constantly going through that. But as you get old, right, as we've learned in the last year,
Right.
we have one stem cell for every 10,000 cells when we're about 18, 19 years old. When we're 50, we have one stem cell for every 400, 500,000 cells. When we're 80, we have one stem cell for every 2 million cells, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
That's gotta be the factor.
maybe the decline in the number of stem cells causes the accumulation of these senescent cells, and this is the problem that we're having. And so wouldn't it make sense if you take all the science, and this is what I'm doing, right? This is what I've always liked doing, is taking all this, look at all this stuff that I wrote this morning, and combining and just basically saying, look, they're basically want these senescent cells because they accumulate as you get older. We also know the science that says that we have fewer stem cells as we get older. And so if we can take and we can improve that, they found that kidney disease causes more stem cells to accumulate. A kidney disease is caused by inflammation, right?
Right.
And a diet that we know where we eat too much sugar, that's pro-inflammatory as well.
Mm-hmm.
What if we take all these 5 things that I just talked about and we combine it, and you like how we combine it just like that? It happens really quickly. It's like that.
Imagine.
But so they're finding that we can reverse some of this stuff. So the drug companies are basically working on it. The drug companies say that at least 1% of your cells right now are senolytic, right? They're into senescence, right?
Okay.
And they're saying when you're diseased, that can be up to 20%.
Wow.
Right?
That's pretty intense.
And so they're saying that 1 in 7,000, if you've got the ratio 1 to 7,000, you can have a problem. And so the drug companies are jumping all over this, and they're coming up like, I read about a drug called dasatinib, right? That's the one that Mayo Clinic was reporting on. It works a lot like Weserton, and it eliminates these cells that have gone into senescence. Another study was on a drug called navitoclax, right? And it stops cells from surviving. Another study was on the parathyroid, right? And parathyroid, that's interesting because we've heard studies on vitamin D. The parathyroid is associated with vitamin D. So wouldn't it make sense that if we increase our vitamin D levels, that we're gonna have better stem cells? And how does that work? Well, I got interested and I thought, well, you know, how's the parathyroid connected to that? And so what does the parathyroid do? It stimulates the bone marrow to produce more stem cells.
Oh, it's always a circle. Everything
Right.
you talk about, it's a circle in your body. You can't take one part out and just treat or study that. It's all a circle.
Yeah. And so we've gone overtime a little bit here, Andrea, you know, and I know, you know, that a lot of people are thinking, well, I thought this was a talk about sizzle.
Right?
Well, it is, you know, folks, here it is. Because, you know, I got to show the science because I want you to understand that this is real. This isn't something that we're just making up. But here we got a company, Sizzle, and I just say we are the anti-aging company. In my opinion, wouldn't you say, Andrea? We are the anti-aging company.
Oh, definitely. With the formulation that Tom has put together in our age pill to increase NAD based on science, and he's continued to improve it, I think, 5 times in the last, 16 months?
Yep.
You know?
Yeah,
Definitely.
So here we have a product that Andrea is talking about, the age pill, anti-glycation extreme, right? And what does it do? It removes glycation, it removes lipofuscin, and if you look at all the research, you remove glycation and lipofuscin, it's going to have a healthy benefit on your life. It's going to help with longevity. That's what they're saying, right? We're not making any medical claims. We're just saying that the studies show that, and that's the extract we have used in our product. And Tom's improving it all the time. I mean, he just added extracts from rosemary and sage because he found that it has a healthy benefit on it. He's added some other things to it that make it work. They found that products like ingredients like curcumin have a positive effect on aging. Where do we find some of the best curcumin on the planet?
I don't know. Tell me.
Brain vitality. Brain vitality. Right? And but another product that I was reading about last night, Influence, has curcumin in it as well, but it's also got quercetin in it, and that's the study that Mayo Clinic was just reporting on. They found that quercetin has an effect on aging. It helps remove these senescent cells. Isn't that cool? So we have a product that we designed to help with the immune system. It supports a healthy immune system, and that's what we can say on it. But the studies show that the same ingredients that are helping support a healthy immune system are helping with removing senescent cells.
Right.
Right? And what do most people die from when they get older? You know, when they get an infection. That's why we're giving all these old people are saying you got to get your flu shot.
Right.
What if we could improve their immune system with a product like this, right? What if we could improve their immunity?
Yeah.
Right.
It sounds like the immune system is the most important thing.
Yeah, and then we want to get the vitamin D levels up, because the vitamin D levels, again, it has such an important function on all of this through the parathyroid gland, and we got products like Balance D. We've got products like the calcium K2 product that have vitamin D in it, right? And then they find that different plant extracts. Well, you take a look at SpectrumX. What do we got in SpectrumX besides 74 trace minerals?
Lots of plant extracts.
Lots of plant extracts. Look at the bottle. It says strawberry juice. That's one of them that's in there, right?
Highly concentrated.
Highly concentrated. Right, and then we have a product with resveratrol, right? And like you were talking about with resveratrol. What product is that?
Eternity.
Eternity. Right? I think it's just a great tasting product. I tell people I'm drinking the equivalent resveratrol, is 300 glasses of red wine every morning. Before 8 o'clock in the morning, I've already had a shot of that.
But you tell them you had like 300 glasses of red wine that morning?
Every morning.
Every morning.
Right? Every morning. I do that every morning before I drink coffee. Red wine, then coffee.
Sounds like a good combo.
Right? And then we have the age pill, again, like we talked about. And then we have the brain vitality with the curcumins in it. And we have the renovator that's got more curcumins. And all of these different things, they all add up, because if we can get rid of the inflammation, we're going to have all this important function. And then earlier, what was it, about 3 weeks ago, we were talking, maybe it was a month ago, we were talking about how fucoidan, new studies that came out in April of this year said that fucoidan helps with kidney function.
Right. Yes.
Right? And kidney function is related to stem cell function. And so fucoidan. And who has the most powerful fucoidan product on the market?
Sizzle International.
Yeah, most powerful one on the market. Tom's gotten 2 Genius Awards for his work on that. He's got patents. I don't know how many patents on the studies behind that. And so we start putting all these things together, folks, and all of a sudden you start realizing that maybe we can. Maybe it's not just fantasy. Maybe we can all live to be healthy 100 years old.
Yeah, sounds like a good goal.
Yeah, we can all be sitting on the Late Show with Johnny Carson and just like George Burns talking about our 103rd birthday.
Right. I don't think George did it the same way, though.
George just had a good set of genetics.
Right.
Right? And we might as well. We might as well. You might have a good set of genetics.
I do.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. So I like telling people, get your genetics tested so you know what problems might come up in your life, and then you can address those a little bit more. But those are things that we can do. And so, Andrea, I'm going to let you close the call out. Thanks for being here. You know, I know you're out on the road and you're making a long trip across America from, you know, almost on the East Coast, almost to the West Coast. So I'll let you close out the call. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fisnick. Thank you for being here every Tuesday to share this important information with us and offer us options that we can utilize to improve our health, stay healthier longer, and live longer. We do represent a company called Sizzle International. It has, in my opinion, the most effective, non-toxic, high-quality products in the world. And so get back with the person who may have invited you to this call, or if you saw them share it on their Facebook, you know, get back with that person and get some more information about all this stuff that Doc's sharing with you today. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you, Andrea. Have a safe trip. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.